right, so here's the overall Hoods Unlimited mission. Alright, five-year plan here. 5 years, 5x. We want to grow 5 times what we are now in 5 years. So if for instance we're a $2 million a year business, in 5 years we want to be 10. If we've got a couple of guys that are making 6 figures, in 5 years we want 10. If this is a 1,500 square foot shop, in 5 years we want a 7,500 square foot shop. If right now we have 8 hood cleaning trucks, 5 years we want 40. I think that it should be a goal of somebody who's young and ambitious or whatever, to have an expectation if they're doing really good or whatever to be on a truck for 3 years and then move on up into management. And that's just keep it simple. That's my goal. So that everything I do, that's kind of like why I'm doing whatever I'm doing. It's just because I'm trying. That's my goal, and that should be your goals for, for starting out, right here, right now. Just a little bit about Atlanta history of hood cleaning. Like, Atlanta's still, for whatever reason. And it's really, the South is really like this in general. Like, we moved from Indiana. Were you guys here the whole, like, have you guys been born in Georgia? Florida. Yeah, you lived here for a while. You up north ever?
Yeah, I stayed in Wyoming for about 3 years.
Yeah.
But I was all over the place. My dad was in the Air Force. So we moved a lot.
Cool. Well, like the Northeast is like, seems like it's always dead. And the South is always like, coming up behind. It's a little slower, whatever. Well, that's how it is in this industry. There's been no industry to really dominate Atlanta in hood cleaning. So what you're seeing is probably about 5, 6, hood cleaning companies about the size of mine. It's taken me 20 years to get to the size it's at, but right now we're experiencing like rapid growth, and I'm probably more experienced than like anybody in Atlanta at hood cleaning. The old guy that used to be more experienced than me died, a couple years ago. So, and he kind of literally wrote the book. Like, so these, like any building that's occupied for business, including even this one. I mean, we got under the radar for a number of years, but once they figured out that we were occupying this building and working in it, they come and do safety checks, So I have to have the fire extinguisher. That used to be an exit light. We got to put it back up. Fire extinguisher, whatever. I had to get the cords up off the floor, all this other kind of stuff, and all that's because it's written inside of one of these, And so there's like, if you went in somebody's office somewhere in the U.S., you'd have these 100 of them, 150 of them, going that way and going that way, and it's all the fire codes. And so when you have that, these guys that are going around doing the inspections, that are driving this into our particular industry and whoever else is in there, fire sprinkler people, we don't do that. They enforce these rules, right? And they don't know all of them. Like nobody does, dude. They're drinking from a fire hose. That old guy that I said, Bernard Biesel, who died a couple years ago, he basically, he probably wrote half of this. He just happened to be from Atlanta. But so now that he's gone, like I don't know if there's anybody that knows more about this stuff than I do. I don't know, And it's just because I've been going at it for 20 years, just repeat. I mean, I'm a guy that started with nothing, had nothing, I mean, I started this with a credit card, I had a couple $1,000, credit available to me, and I went and bought a truck and a crappy little truck and a crappy little pressure washer, and started But it's not because I'm smart. It's just because I've always been trying to discipline myself to figure out who I wanted to teach me, and then when I figured out who I wanted to teach me, I just was disciplined enough to do it over and over again, and just so I could get somewhere, And dude, that's my style to this day. Like if you were to open up my phone, I have a couple of guys that I listen to, and I don't just listen to them once. Like on Monday mornings, I'll read for 20 minutes, and that whole week I go back and I'll go ride my bike and I'll listen to that 20 minutes over and over again, because it's just how I learn, And that's how everybody learns. But we don't have good teachers anymore, So anyhow, this is the one particularly that has, in one freaking chapter in this book, it has the rules that kind of cause us to do what we do. And it's chapter 11. It's right here where it talks about cleaning exhaust systems. And so in here it has like just a rough schedule. And I'll just, I'll just start out by saying I could make it sound sophisticated and all this kind of stuff. You'll get really frustrated when you try to live out these rules, because they put us in an impossible situation. I'll say that up front, and you'll realize that on down the road, because they're saying, here, clean this, and this is the standards, and this is what you're supposed to do, and you get there and you're like, how am I supposed to go do that? I can't fly, I don't have wings, And so anyhow, you'll see. But this chapter right here has to do with cleaning. Here's a rough schedule. They say that minimum you have to do it twice a year. So every restaurant you go by, minimum they have to do it twice a year. What's trending nowadays is it's more typical to do it every quarter. So if we get a new customer, chances are we're going to do them 4 times that year. I don't want to get too deep into that. It's good to know this just because it's like the Bible of hood cleaning, and just like knowing the Bible, like if you know it, then you can't let somebody tell you what it says in there, because you'll know what it says, And dude, very probably by the end of this week, with what I tell you, and then you listening to it over and over again, you'll have the confidence that you'll know more than virtually every single one of the customers you'll be in front of from day one, because they just don't know this stuff. They're not even thinking about this stuff. When they went to go start a restaurant, they were just like, I'll make, I'll buy a Arby's franchise, and we're all, whatever, and they're just thinking about making money, and then they find out they got to do all this crap afterward, and they don't, and here's what it looks like. Oh God, the fire inspector's coming today. Oh, he walks around. Oh, and then the fire inspector's like, oh, where's your sticker certification on your hood that says you just got this done within the last 6 months? And they'll be like, oh, I have to do that? And they'll be like, yeah, you have to do that. And then our stickers on thousands of hoods out there, and so a lot of times it's our sticker up there. So call us, we'll go send somebody out, we'll go do it. Right now we've got we've got more than 8 trucks, but we've got 8 trucks that are solid. Like they're going to be here next week, the week after, week after, week after. We've got about 3 trucks that are kind of in the interim. We've got a saying around here: 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. It's like if you make it past 3 days, you're probably going to make it 3 weeks. If you make it 3 weeks, probably make it 3 months. If you make it past 3 months, you'll probably make it 3 years. So we've got about 3 trucks that are in a kind of an interim period, where they're figuring it out. So what would my advice be? My advice would be, your homework should be, I would say, like, read something in this, but I'm not. I'll just say watch these videos, and then I would make it a goal to watch, since we've got this 5 thing here, I would make it your goal to do everything 5 times. So watch this video that we're making right now 5 times. I've got another training video that I made that's an hour and 20 minutes long that goes through the process of pulling out the hoses and hooking them up and spraying and doing a basic hood cleaning. Watch that 5 times and then do it 5 times out there, you know? You know, if you could get it done this week, then, you know, I think that you'll be in a place where you're like, hey man, I'm ready to go out with somebody. And then we'll start, then we'll go there. But we'll keep working on it. The hood, all right? So here's what you're gonna find in restaurants. You're gonna find a range of easy to complicated, okay? And an easy one is like the one that's on the other side of the wall. It's like an 8-foot hood that has, you know, a duct, and it goes up to the roof line, and then there's a curb, that little base that the fan sits on, it's called a curb. And then many of the fans are like that. They're like an up-blast fan. All right, so when people are cooking food down in the restaurant, the theory is, and here's usually a drop ceiling. So this little space right here is, you know, the ceiling. And then this right here is where they're cooking the food, right? But that's not how fire marshals look at this. They look at this as a hazard, all right? Because there's a flame and there's heat and it can catch on fire and there's grease, right? And so that's why they have those fire suppression systems that have those drop down nozzles. Have you guys ever spent time in a kitchen? Yeah, so they've got those fire suppression systems, which we do those too. You guys
so
don't
this
do
right here
that?
where you're showing, that's like when you move off the little filter. That's
Yeah,
that
those bars.
circle,
That's that circle that goes up. But like all the little piping that you see that runs that way and that way in the hood, that's the fire suppression system, which is designed to go off if there's a fire. And so each one of those little nozzles is designed that like it's over each one of the hazards. So if there's 1, 2, 3 hazards down there, the way they categorize it, the nozzles are directly over them, and they're positioned in such a way that the spray pattern will cover all of the hazard. And so in a what you learn in fire school and stuff is the fire triangle. That you've got oxygen, you've got heat, and you've got fuel. And what you try to do in a fire suppression system is break one of the legs, any one of the legs of the fire triangle to put the fire out. So in this case, you know, the system, it cuts off the power. Whatever power is fueling these things, it cuts it off. It sprays, and, you know, it cuts it off because that's adding like heat. It's adding fuel, like natural gas or electricity. It sprays it, and you're trying to knock out the heat, but it also smothers it because once it hits it's basically like this salty soap that hits the fire and then foams up, and so it smothers it and takes out the oxygen. So it's trying to go for all 3, hoping at least gets one and puts the fire out. The fire suppression system's not really in the duct or the fan. It's only you know, spraying inside what's called the plenum. So the plenum is behind the filters. So you take those filters out and the plenum's back behind there. The piping is back behind the filters, and it's right here over the equipment. And so right? So that's why our part comes in, the hood cleaning. Yeah, we are supposed to clean the hood, and that's all a customer knows. So what hood cleaning becomes a dance of is pleasing three people. There's also a triangle for who we're trying to please. We're trying to please the customer. You're trying to please ourselves because we don't want this to be a miserable job, and we're trying to please the fire marshal, right? But like, so when we go and we clean the hood and make it look all pretty, we're making the customer real happy. When we're going up here and actually removing the grease, because you guys understand that grease will auto ignite. It'll auto ignite at like 750 degrees, which is really hot. Fryers are usually operating down. Fryer's the most dangerous hazard in a kitchen. You know, every other fire, typically speaking, unless it's some sort of like failure on the gas line and there's, you know, all of a sudden that happens, none of these things are for that. This is like, we've had that happen before, and these things aren't designed to put out that kind of fire, like a mechanical failure. They're like designed to put out cooking fire. But any other fire, hamburger catches on fire, flashes up, a lot of times you get a little extinguisher, heck, you get a box of baking soda, you can probably put it out. But once 30 gallons of oil catches on fire, you're in trouble. You gotta have the right stuff. And really the kitchen's supposed to be trained on what to do. None of them are, I guarantee you, none of them. The fryer's the most, so it's running around 400 degrees. So there's a big 300 degree temperature difference between, you know, the surface of that fryer and up here, maybe even 400 or 500 degrees. So like, you can have a massive amount of grease in here, and it's not just going to catch on fire, because it takes 750 degrees to catch it on fire. However, one thing that'll catch it on fire is if that doggone fryer catches on fire. Because if that doggone fryer catches on fire, all of a sudden you're going to have flames that are licking this stuff up in here, and now you got a serious problem. Now you got the flames shooting out the roof and into the air. I don't know if you've ever driven by a restaurant when it's on fire, but that's what happens. They're calling. A lot of times, sometimes they don't even know about it. I mean, that's happened before too. You'll learn you've got different kinds of. Right now I don't feel bad about saying too much because it's you can repeat and listen. But like, you've got different kind of greases that will catch on fire differently for different reasons. So if you're cooking with wood and you've got a mixture of that creosote and grease, it burns differently than Indian oil and But the other thing I will say is what's a little more dangerous than what I just described is like pizza ovens, because pizza ovens just have straight creosote that goes up into the duct. And it comes like a briquette charcoal stuff that's up in there, and that'll self-ignite at 450. And those pizza ovens are damn near operating at that hot. And so if the ember goes up there or whatever, you can have that. Luckily, it burns out quick, so it's a lot of times what'll happen is like, what's that noise? What's going on? You know, and then the neighbor calls and says, do you know you have flames shooting out of your fan up on the roof? What the hell? Call the fire department, you know. So by the way, what's supposed to happen, you know, all this stuff you can, you know, again, we probably won't be talking about this crap for a long time again, but if you get it in your brain, you'll know it, and you will be able to use it and sound knowledgeable and stuff to everybody. But what's supposed to happen in a kitchen if their scraps sets on fire is they're not supposed to put it out. They're supposed to be trained that go to your nearest exit, and on the way, yank the pull cord for the hood and set that system off. Which is not, I mean, it's not something that, I mean, it's a pretty serious thing, because that'll shut down the restaurant and it'll cost them $1,500 to get it reset and cleaned up. but that's what they're supposed to do. They also have these silver fire extinguishers. This is what most commonly happens. There's usually one guy that's got enough common sense in the kitchen to know that silver fire extinguisher is for food, and a lot of times that person will grab that fire extinguisher and put it out. The red ones aren't for food. The red ones, the ones you see everywhere, they're called ABC. They're not specifically designed for food. They'll work, not as well as a K class, but they'll work. So that's probably about all the education I'll give you on that piece of it. So
That's the World Trade at the top, right? That's, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So like, and I've got, this is exactly how our shop is right here, except I don't have a drop ceiling put up. But there's always, there's the space, but this is the roof line. So you'll climb, you'll put your ladder up. It's not too good handy to be scared of heights or scared of ladders for this job. Let me put that out there right up front. You don't have to say whether you are or not. I'll be able to tell. I'll be able to tell when I watch you climb a ladder. But there's safe ways to do it, and you'd be fine. Ladders are safe if you use them right. So yeah, you put the ladder up here. There's supposed to be a tipping mechanism called a hinge kit, where that fan will just tip over. And I'll get into that in a minute, but yeah, we want to get in there and keep that grease down, keep it down. A lot of times, when we start doing a good job as a cleaning company, it'll be more like and the customers are doing a good job of going on time. It'll be more like a car wash than a intense, like, oh, I had to roll up my sleeves and shovel it out. It's gonna be like no, I sprayed it and washed it and we were gone. So I'm about to get into the nuts and bolts of how that process is done, but I just wanted to give you guys the theory, kind of the background about, what we're here, that this is how we're gonna accomplish that goal. We're gonna go out and clean people's hoods and charge the right price, so it's worth our time, and go knock it out and make everybody happy. Again, Atlanta really hasn't been dominated by any company. So my thing is like, why not start dominating it? I'm a slow learner, right? So like now it's taken me 20 years, but I'm like, you know what? I think we can dominate Atlanta now. The problem is I'm just too old to go do it myself. I try to stay in shape. So here's what it looks like. Here's what you're gonna run into. So you've got every store that's got a kitchen. I don't care if this is a little Chick-fil-A box, that's one story. Call this CFA. Or you've got a school, you've got a hospital, you've got high-rise, gas stations, yeah, but they're all different shapes and sizes, and what you'll find is because cooking and eating in the kitchen is so unique in that it's like it doesn't matter if they put it in a hospital, like if you're or a high rise or whatever, if you're feeding people multiple meals a day, it's just busy, so you got to get daily deliveries, you got to get stuff coming and going all the time, and so they typically will position these things near a door, that is near a loading dock or whatever. Not all the time is it convenient. Like for instance, in a shopping, like in a mall, at a food court, you know. But the system, it doesn't matter if it's in a Chick-fil-A like this, it's gonna be anywhere from, like, this is the hood, by the way. I'm drawing a picture of their hood. This is their hood, and here's their little fryer. And you know, it'll range from a straight duct, which those are wonderful, you know, to, you know, and then there'll be your fan on the roof. They'll have one of those in there, but they'll also have these kind. They'll have a hood that's over another fryer. And then this one will go up and it'll turn. And then it might turn again. And then it might turn again. And then it might go up, you know? And those suck. Because these right here, from here to here, well, really, actually, from here to here, it's called horizontal. Right? So this horizontal, this is vertical. Like that one right there, it's vertical, straight up and down. This horizontal stuff sucks. Okay? So so you basically have your horizontal and your vertical. Like this is the difference between cleaning this versus cleaning this, is the difference between cutting the grass with an automatic lawnmower and digging ditches with a shovel. They're just two different animals, right? So I want you to know that right off the bat. And actually, just full disclosure, you know, we are evolving into a company that handles this better. No, and really, going back to that part where I was saying, when you know the rules, you're gonna start to get frustrated with them, because the rules will say you're supposed to do such and such to these horizontals, and then you get in there and you're like, it's blocked. I can't get it. How am I supposed to get up there? You know, I'm not a helium balloon. I can't float. You know, and so, but needless to say, like, we're learning. Like, I put my head in the sand about it for years, and 2 years ago it came out. So we're journeying down this road of getting with our customers and telling them they've got to do more, and then asking for them to pay for it, you know. And so it doesn't always, it's not always a fun conversation to have with these people. But you know, when you get down the road, we're going to be talking about, you know, when you're doing your job, you're going to get there, you're going to take a bunch of pictures of, you know, and then the pictures are in Amazon servers forever, and then you can give them to the customer, and you can provide them if there's a lawsuit, and yada yada yada. But there's also going to be this thing where you're going to get there and you're going to be like, oh, it's sitting right, click, it's a deficiency, da, 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 da. And so you're going to take pictures and put deficiencies, you know, in the app, and then it's, you know, it's going to go straight to the computer system, so we'll see it. But anyhow, so you'll learn about that in a second, or eventually. So, you know, that's a simple Chick-fil-A building, and you've got, nowadays, like, let's just say you're at the Braves Stadium area, and, you know, and this is real popular to do now in Atlanta, and probably everywhere else, everybody copycats each other, but what's real popular to do in Atlanta is to put retail on the first floor and then have apartments, you know, like 3 or 4 levels of apartments above it. And so one of those retails will be, you know, a food place. And so, you know, what you run into in these situations is still, you know, your hood, you got that box, you know, you've got that drop ceiling, you've got that duct, but what that duct will do is it'll go into something that is the size of a small car, and then come out the other side and be like vented out some just you won't even, it's like when you're walking by on a sidewalk, you're like, you know, somebody's cooking, It just gets blown out the side of the building because this thing is it's basically a smoke eater. It's got technology in it that nothing comes out the other side of it's working right. And so what we do in that situation is we clean, the hood and that part of the duct. You won't need to clean anything after because there's nothing after. But if it's not something like this, in a big building like this, it's something like this. They perimeter mall, they ran the duct up and then they ran it 80 feet that way and then they turned it and ran it 30 feet that way and then they shot it up 20 foot to the roof and then they put a big ass fan up there and that's kind of older school technology. This is what we're seeing these days. And just, side note, we don't clean these, but we want to. There's good money in that. So, once we have that 7,500 square foot shop or whatever, we'll be able to.
So is that like a whole nother thing within the business?
Yeah, but you know what's funny? Ben, you're gonna find out so many people don't have a clue about what they bought. Is what we're finding is typically people. Here's what happens. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna open up this nice swanky restaurant right next to the Brave Stadium, and then they spend their ass. Everybody, it always happens. It always happens. You think, oh, it's gonna cost $100,000 or even this shop. Like, oh yeah, I think I can do this for $7,000. $30,000 later, it's like, hell, and it happens in restaurants. So it's like they go and they build out this restaurant, and they didn't realize they damn near spent $500,000 by the time they put that thing in. And then the restaurant goes, and let's just say it gets off to a slow start or whatever. Well, all of a sudden that dude's looking at the numbers and he's like, Mayday, Mayday, we're going down. Let's sell this some bitch. And so they'll just sell it like a fire sale, just like get out from underneath it. And then that new owner buys it and doesn't know what the hell he's got, because he didn't have to do any of the people who installed it. That the guy who sold it's like, he don't care anymore, And then the guy who bought it's like, I don't know, and you go in there and you're like, you don't know what the hell you bought, did you? And I'm like, no, well, you bought a PCU unit and it's going to cost you to fix it, and it's all messed up right now, and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't know, but I can learn how to do it. We're not there yet. So what we do is we tell them, we clean the hood, we clean the deep smoke up or clean the grease up to here, and then with this one, you're on your own. And they kind of know it too, because there's that's why that closet is in there with all those buttons and that soap solution that they told me I was going to have to Echo Lab was going to have to come bring me. Oh, that's what. Oh yeah, I haven't been doing that. How long? For 2 years. Yeah, you figure it out, bro. You're in trouble. So that's that's the arrangement, and I don't know how overwhelming any of this stuff seems, but hey man, how you doing?
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
See ya. We cut it all down into bite-sized pieces. Dude, I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like y'all. And I only have so much energy or whatever, so it's not that we go out there. I feel like we're very fair, and I feel like we're very reasonable in what we ask, be done. Because really, in my opinion, I'm even friendly to all my competitors, because my attitude is just like, we all need hugs, and we all, it's kind of it is a little bit of a community. A lot of people don't realize that, but I've been going to this ICA, it's my certification association, for a long time. We all get there and see each other year after year, and it's like one of these things where it's like, I don't know, you kind of become friends in the struggle of figuring out, like, how do you guys figure this thing out? So anyhow, next.
I do got a question for the
Yeah.
pipes like this. inside and outside, just outside, just inside?
Just the inside.
Just the inside.
Something I didn't mention, and I didn't mention it because there's rules, and I don't want to bog you down with the rules before you get the overall why of what's going on. But when it runs horizontal, the rules are at every bend, every place that it turns, and every 12 foot of horizontal run, there's supposed to be what's called an access door. So these are all these ducts. They're not like HVAC ducts.
Okay.
They're not round. Typically, they're not round. They have to be. The reason is because they're fire rated. They have to hold up in an intense fire for a certain amount of time. So they're made of like thick 16 gauge thickness steel, and everywhere these ducts are welded together. They're welded. There's another type of seam that's allowable, but just think of it as welded because it's that. That's how secure it has to be. You can't just zip tie crap or you're not supposed to run like sheet metal screws through it. They're supposed to be fire rated penetrations is what they call it and stuff. So that's how we're supposed to clean it. Sounds reasonable, right? Sounds logical. It's like, oh, okay, so every turn and every 12 feet, you put in a door where you just take the wing nuts, you slide the door, and you slide it out, and you go and clean it, right? Dude, it's impossible. It's like you're talking about a license plate size hole, basically. The hole about the size of a license plate, and you don't know what kind of crap is up in there. It's like, so, and then is it right here, or is it right here, or, even if you get it right here at your chest and you can get in and clean, you can't see in there, you can't, it's stupid. It's stupid. If I were to, see, here's the problem, is the guys who are designing and buying and building all these things are upstream from me in my industry. Like, we're not up there. We're all downstream. We do it afterwards, and we don't get a call. We don't get to say, how they build these things. Chick-fil-A finally got smart. For, I don't know, 10 years or so, they were building all these stores with all this kind of crazy horizontal duct inside their drop ceiling space. The space between the drop ceiling and the roof. It had all that. And it's like, because they wanted their fans to be in the middle of the roof, so they didn't. You couldn't see them from the road. Makes the building prettier. Well, that makes sense, but it makes it impossible to clean. And they're freaking, you see Chick-fil-A, it's like double lines around the thing, and there's one particular hood that gets nasty, and they usually have 4. But there's one that gets nasty, and so it's just stupid. And so finally, they put this guy out there that his name's Greg Bishop, who started harassing hood cleaners about cleaning the duct, and we're like, dude, quit making them like that. Like, how am I supposed to open up this door when it's here, or you've covered it with a fire rack, so what they ended up doing was they got smart. They ended up taking the duct straight up to the roof line, and then they turned it. And so now, on the newer, probably the ones that have been built in the last 5 years, since like 2017, if they've been built since then the horizontals actually run on the roof. And then you just walk around, undo the wing nuts, or we actually have drills that have wing nut adapters. You move the thing, and if they stay on top of it, if they clean it every 90 days, if they've been using a company that actually goes in and does what I'm talking about, then you can spray it with your spray and rinse it, and it does come back down to bare metal. But if they've been out hiring some $200, $250 company, and they're like, just because remember how that triangle about who you're trying to please? Well, lazy hood cleaners, they're all over Atlanta, and they realize that if I just make this box shiny, the customer's happy, and they'll just come and wipe that thing out and then leave, and they don't do any of this other work, that's hard. you know, then Chick-fil-A hires them because it's like, oh, 250 versus 500, you know, and they do it for 2 years and then they got a problem, and then it's like, well, now it's going to cost us $1,500 to get it back right. We're going to have to be out there 2 nights, and then we'll keep it up and we'll do what we need to do for $500. And, you know, but here's what's exciting in the industry that's happening. It's finally happening. After 20 years, they've been talking about it happening. It's never happened. This company, it's a third-party company called Compliance Engine, is going around Atlanta and selling their service to every county, and it's just a matter of time. They're knocking them out one county at a time, and counties and legal places, they're all copycats. You know, Cherokee County will sit here and be like, no, we're not doing it, we're not interested, and then all of a sudden Cobb County will sign on, and then they'll be like, Cobb County signed on, I guess we're gonna have to sign on. And that's totally what's happening. And that third party, what they do is they're like, hey, we're going to take care of all your fire compliance. Your fire marshals don't have to go out anymore. Here's how we're going to do it. And so they take care of it for them, and it costs them nothing because we end up having to pay to submit our services to them, and then we pass that on to the customer. So it's a genius thing, you know. So that's why. So Compliance Engine's selling, knocking out one county at a time, and as soon as all the I would say 30-40% of Metro Atlanta has succumbed to Compliance Engine, and it's only a matter of time. It's been coming slowly. It's only a matter of time before it's just a no-brainer for everybody. And then what happens is I go to this food place and I say, because they hired us, and I'll tell them what's up, and then they'll say, you know, no, I don't want to do it, or you know, and then I'll be like, okay, you know, and then I turn it into Compliance Engine, and Compliance Engine sends it to the fire marshal, and the fire marshal's like, do it by Wednesday, or you're closing down, you know, and so that's kind of how that works. So how do we do? I would just start with the first training video I ever made, and you'll learn, you don't need fancy schmancy training things, you just need to repeat it. You just need to tell them, teach them, and then just repeat it, right? But one of my first training videos, I started with the video of my watch, because I was, I kind of turned myself into like a washing machine, you know, when I cleaned hoods, and I just, it was my answer to like, how do I do this and not be here all day or all night? And so, in my opinion, I was doing it, and it helped me because I'm one of these guys that's, I like to see things look good, you know, like cut the grass, you know, and you cut the grass, and it's like, oh yeah, it's fun because it looks better when you're done, you know. Well, hook cleaning sometimes does not offer that satisfaction, and so you're like, how long do I stay here? I've been spraying this grease, you know, and this sticky grease, and it's not moving. And so I came up with cycles, and it's basically like, you know, and I like to simplify things too, but you know, a hook cleaning should get done in about 3 hours, you know, somewhere in that range, 2 to 3 hours. This is o'clock, this is noon, this is 1, 2, I guess I should 3 hours. So you should get it done in 3 hours. And basically what you do is you divide it up and say, you know, you start out here first and prep it and get it ready, and that's probably about 45 minutes. Then you go up to the roof second, and that could take about 45 minutes. And then, because when you're on the roof, you're cleaning both of these things, right? And then you go back down into the kitchen. Third, and that should take the remainder of your time. You know, you want, and if we've been here in an hour and a half, well then maybe it takes 90 minutes. You know, when you've got two good guys in a truck, it's remarkable what you can accomplish. Because it just kind of becomes a dance, you know. And so like these times will shrink as you get better. I mean, you know, you got to do all the things, but it becomes so much better because you can just, like, I was always trying to become more efficient when I was out there in the truck. So I'd like be up on the roof and I'd have a guy helping me and I'd be like, hey, you know, let's just say I knew he didn't need to watch the water going down into the trash can because it was all going in and it wasn't puddling up. I'd be like, all right, we'll start wiping out the outside of the hoods, you know, start on this, we'll start carrying this thing out. I was always trying to figure out how to get the job done quicker. By becoming more efficient, not by cutting corners, you know, just you can become super efficient. So that's kind of, and so let's just say that you go up on the roof and you have 45 minutes, but you don't have just one fan, you have three, right? And not all fans look like this. You have, most of them do though. You have different kinds, but this is your typical up-blast fan. You'll see that's the one I have up on the shop, and then there's the like utility fans, which have a couple different brands, a couple different styles, but they're bigger steel fans that have a bigger. They look different. They do the same thing. They're just pulling the air out. Which, by the way, the something I'll throw in here is, so here's the hazard, right? Here's the cooking equipment down here. The air is getting sucked out, right? But what is also happening, and when I tell you this, you're going to know more than most customers. They have another on the roof, another little machine called, and it's like an air handler, and it just pushes air back into the restaurant, so you have the same amount of air coming in as you have going out, and it creates a balance. It's supposed to be perfectly balanced when they install it. So like when you go to a restaurant, and have you ever gone and pulled the handle and it's like a suction? It's out of balance. Like their makeup air is probably not working. It's just sucking all the air out. And there's, you know, and there's not a balance. So, but what's supposed to happen to make it even better, and this happens on more expensive hoods, not so much on cheaper hoods, but like a lot of time, what they do is they'll pump the air in. The air will come in and get pumped up right there, and it creates an air curtain. And so it becomes really efficient, and it doesn't pull the HVAC air out with it. It's just pulling the cooked air, the hot air out with it. And that's what's supposed to happen. So like, you know, you'll hear people talk about, man, my kitchen's been really smoky, you know. I think it's got way too much grease. People always think that. That's the natural, like, intuition is to be like, oh, it's so greasy, that's why it's so smoky. No. The air thing is operating inefficiently. Like, you know, maybe there's a broken belt on the makeup air. Maybe maybe the belt is getting loose on the extractor. But it's not, the kitchen isn't supposed to get smoky because there's supposed to be that air curtain, and it's not supposed to lose the HVAC. But it's a difficult science. But let's just say you get up on the roof and you know, I would be like, okay, it's 10 a.m. I want to be off the roof at 10:45. So that means that I've got, you know, 15 minutes to work on this one, 15 minutes. And so I kept my watch on. You know, I lived by my watch. My watch told me if I was going slow, if I was going fast. and I'm a person that gets distracted easily, you know, unless I become like a soldier, you know, my mentality. It's like, here's my mission. I'm not going to get distracted, you know. I'm going to clean this one in 15 minutes, you know, and it just helps me stay on time. And then I was always going to guarantee, because one of the things that the office does here is we try to prevent fumbles from happening, because you know, what we ultimately want you to be able to accomplish easily is 10 jobs per week. So what that means is 2 a night, you know. So we want you to be able to, you know, and so like, we don't want you to miss that second job, you know, that's so that, you know, we try to get keys. A lot of places are bars or something in this, so they'll stay open late. But you want to stay on time, because you don't want to go out that night and not get that second job done. You know, that's the money you need and the money I need. You know. So, and then the same thing for, like, you know, the same thing for setting up. You know, if you're in there in the kitchen and you've got 40, if you're like, okay, I got 45 minutes to get these hoods, you know, prepped. And prepped basically means, you know, protected from water, you know, same thing, you know, oh, it's 10 o'clock, I'm gonna be done by 10:45, you know, I'm gonna be up on the roof. And a lot of times, you'd be surprised, you start getting these little competitions in your head, and you'll beat your time, you know, you're like, dang, I got it done in 30 minutes, pretty good, you know. But, so, my first tip would be to you to wear a watch and kind of live by it. Let's see. Because the actual training video goes over everything else. I think this is just a good start. 10 jobs a week. You know, I've given you the overall mission. We want to 5X in 5 years. I want you guys to do 10 jobs a week. You know, 2 guys in a truck, 3 years in a truck to management. There's one more thing. You guys have any questions?
Just about the pay. So this, we're gonna be training all week, or does it start after we get on the field?
No, it's already started. When you walked in here.
And then the training process is typically like a week or 2, or until we're comfortable being on our own.
The training process would be until you're comfortable on your own. I want you to watch this video 5 times, watch the next video that y'all are about to watch 5 times. Do you have phones that like connect to YouTube? I can give you the Wi-Fi for the shop, and I'll send you the link, and you guys can just sit here, get a cup of coffee, get a drink or whatever, and watch it. If I can't 5 seconds. Alright, so I wear black shirt, black pants on cleaning hoods. I've always done it. It you know, it looks good, but it hides the grease, you know. And we'll have these. I don't have cotton shirts. I have NetCat, a different material. You know, Wick gets people jackets and stuff. You know, but my advice about your appearance is it just makes sense to look professional, and in this line of work, like, professional means what you would expect, like a professional company. I mean, you know, you don't wear polo or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like a technician. You know, I usually have these cargo. You'll see what I'm wearing in the video. That's big, you know, some cargo pants and a shirt, hat. You know, I hit my head all the time on those stupid things that come down. You know, so it keeps my head from protected a little bit. You know, wear a headlight or whatever. You know, and, you know, at night. But dude, I have had people. I've walked in. You know, gone to locations where a guy brought his girlfriend and she's wearing a Georgia hoodie and jeans and they look terrible, you know. And here's what happens. Inevitably, you'll accidentally make a mess or something will happen. Last week, a guy was at Church's and he didn't know this would happen, and this is kind of one of those hard things that it could happen to me after 20 years, you know. But you go and you get a really good deep clean on a hood, and it's got for whatever reason you leave and take off your plastic and stuff, and it dribbles about maybe this much water into the fryer, and then they go and turn on the fryer and it just you know just bubbles up when it gets heat and it spills over and it makes a big mess. Well, here's what's going to happen. If they were there when you got there and you look like you weren't a professional, they're gonna be like, I knew it, you know? He looked like an idiot when he got out of the truck. He was wearing, you know, whatever. And I mean, it was raining and he was wearing he looked like he was going to church. You know, I had a guy that was dressed like that. He was freaking wearing like nice clothes and stuff. And I'm like, dude, don't wear it. He's like, it's okay, it's old stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not the point, dude. You don't look like you're supposed to be here, you know? So it just helps you if you just go through the thing of like, let me look like I'm a guy who's supposed to be here. That won't happen. Like they won't sit there and be like, well, I knew he was an idiot, you know, as soon as he sat down out of the van and he looked like an idiot, you know. So that's my thing on appearance is it helps you out. But my mother of all things to make your life better. Now, two things. Maybe this is it, and that's what I want. That's what I want. I'm glad we added this to the video. Equipment, and this is my philosophy. Okay, we're getting into 101 on Courtney's philosophy to hood cleaning life. All right. And I can't spell check when I'm writing, so who knows if that's right or not. But dude, keep your equipment at 100%. You know, I just went to the Smokies last weekend and went hiking with my buddy for the weekend, and you know, deep into the woods. We were in the middle, freaking miles inside of that place. You know, grizzly bears, you know, pigs, you know, you name it. Not grizzly bears, but black bears. But I equate it to hiking so much because once you get out there in the middle of the night and oops, where's my lighter? Oops, I'm down one freaking AAA battery, and now I have no light in the middle of the night. You know, I pissed on one of my shoes on accident. You know, it is like, you know, dude, I didn't have this backup. You know. Keeping your equipment at 100% is something. Not only is it going to make your life way better, it's something that I'm driven to follow up on because I've got, you know, my only debt that I have in this world is my equipment, and it takes 5 years to pay off, and it's got to last 5 years. My vans that I'm buying, I would buy new. A couple of years ago, I was buying new when they were between $25,000 and $30,000. Now those freaking things are like $50,000, and so I'm buying them, and with the mileage range between 40 and 80,000, because I need to get another 200,000 miles on these vans. You know, so they need to last 5 years. So I'm going to be so we're gonna be working on making sure that we're getting oil changes done and everything. So they're gonna, and we even have the little actually these things have come in. They're geo tabs, so we can track and make sure. I want y'all to drive them good and not wear these things out. But more importantly, if you make it your goal to keep everything at 100%, it's gonna make your life so much better, right? And then probably you guys are gonna know in about 2 weeks how to clean hoods, but what you'll really want to know, and you may not know this or not, and I'm saying it right up front, is how to live this life, and how to live it, and what's the word I'm looking for? Thrive. How to thrive being a hood cleaner, man, it has everything to do with this right here. You almost have to make this your second job. For me, what does that look like? If I go out and start cleaning hoods, which you'll probably see me do, is let's just say, I'll probably pick a period of time here soon where because I think that we're going to be getting a bunch. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get everybody doing what we need to be doing. I had a guy managing this place for 10 years for me, and he left a year ago, exactly, November last year. And we have it's been crazy because we've grown like crazy, and we've had to, he was just one guy trying to do too much. Now we've got a team, and we're doing a lot. And so, what that meant was I'm trying to get some of these guys that have been with me for a while in shape, and sometimes it doesn't go so well. They don't like the changes. They've been doing things a certain way or whatever, and so when I have new people, that means that I have to go do UGA. I have to go do Feast at Truist Stadium. I have to go because these are bigger, harder, more important jobs, and we don't have the people that know how to do that stuff. The old guard is probably going to be gone. Like Todd used to clean hoods for years. He's in here now, selling stuff, whatever. But so what I do is when I get home, I typically have like a first sleep, which I'll try to get it all in right then. And it's changed since I've gotten older. I'm in my mid-40s now, and so say I go and I lay down at 7 a.m. I get my room, I black out my room, so I cover my windows, and so it looks like nighttime in my room. It helps tremendously. Because your eyes, when your eyes sense that light, your brain automatically wants to wake up. So I not only do I do that, but I have a good $20 blindfold that covers me, and I'll even put in AirPods. I'll have sound stuff to just take a melatonin, whatever. I'm like 7 a.m. I don't care if I lay here for 5 hours wide awake, which you never do. I'm not getting off this bed until noon, because there's also something weird about me where it's like I want to know what's going on, and but I'll stay at least that long in bed, and then if I'm going back out later on that night, and let's just say I have to leave for the shop at 8 p.m., I'll try to get a little cat nap in before. I don't know. It depends on how tired I am. And if I'm really dragging ass, I'm like, dude, 6 p.m. I'm going to get a fat nap in, Or it might be like 30 minutes or whatever. But man, just taking care of sleep is so important, I just take care of myself in general. I bring snacks, so I'm eating trail mix or whatever. I bring extra clothes because I don't like sitting, in my wet clothes and stuff. But that's my philosophy. You know, if you can keep your equipment 100% and you can dial in on your sleep, you know, then you get to take advantages of, like, there are advantages to being awake during the day. I mean, you know, the rush hour, like, you don't typically, you're on the flip side of rush hour problems. You know, you know, when everybody's out at work, you're awake and you can go get your stuff done without the crowds, you know. I mean, those are the nice features of, you know, I've got typically, you know, I'll have a nice 8 hour window, you know, during the day that, you know, you live, you know, and then you go out at night. And here's another thing about night work, it goes by quick. Dude, it goes by so quick. You're usually, you know, instead of like being like, oh man, when we get home, it's like you're kind of racing the clock all the time. Because if you think about it, like, you know, here I woke up today at 6, all right, so 6 a.m. All right, and I'm gonna be going at it today, you know, probably until 6, you know, 6 p.m., you know, so. That's 12 hours, man. You don't have 12 hours at night, you know. That Chick-fil-A, those people are gone by 11 or so. They're freaking back there at like 4 a.m. You know. So the night window is small. Like when you have day jobs, people are like, and especially nowadays, like people are crazy. They work all hours of the day. You know, they're like, you know. So the good news about working nights is it's short, it's quick, you know, you're out, you leave at 8, you know, you know, we're talking about being gone. You're talking about driving an hour away, doing a hood cleaning, driving 20, 30 minutes, doing another hood clean, driving an hour back, and you're like gone time 8 hours, you know. So that's what you kind of run into with the hood life.
I got 2 questions.
Yeah, man.
For the training, okay, let's say y'all had a clean, whatever the next 2 nights. Even though I watched my video, would there be a night like I come out, like whenever y'all clean, do y'all have one person inside, one person outside?
Like at
on
the job?
Roof and then...
Yeah, you kind of typically will divide it up like that. I mean, again, you kind of figure out how to be fast.
Okay, well, I was wondering, like, one night if I'd be able to actually come and just do a visual watch, like, while I'm watching the video, if I'm able to go to like a clean y'all had tonight, and
Sure.
I take a night and I'm just watching what the main guy
Absolutely.
does on top, and then the next night, even though I watch the video, can I go in and watch what he does from the bottom too,
Yeah.
just so I can get a visual?
Absolutely, that'd be a great idea, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, so just, you know, mention that to Whit, and I will too, because we've never done that before, but I'd be willing to pay, you know, for your training, you know, like. Yeah,
I can
like
go
we
off the
could
clock
figure
just
out
so it could-
we could figure it out a way to you know to the way we track hours is through the app, you know. So you just, you know, you can create a job, any kind of job, and just put it into your phone, and you can just hit there, go to the location, you know, show that you're there or whatever. So yeah, absolutely, it'd be a great way to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be, you know, interested in that too.
Just
Yeah.
do, like 2 different nights. One night I watch everything on the outside from the top to the where they go to the bottom, and then one night where I can watch everything that goes on